Hey skiers, it's Bob from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Matt, how's it going?
Matt and I are here to do part 2 of our 100mm freeride all mountain comparison. Jeff and I did part 1 a couple days ago, and one of the reasons we had to split it into 2 is there's just too many darn skis.
Too many.
We've kind of reached our limit this year and found that we can fit 28 on the wall. And that is kind of the limit in terms of space and also just like our physical ability to talk about 28 skis for
Right.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So a couple things that factor here, breaking this into 2 parts. Part 1 was the more free ride or twin tip side of the spectrum. So if you don't see like a Salomon QST 98 or a Head Oblivion 102 in this realm, and there's certainly more, but those are just 2 examples. Those are generally going to be featured in part 1 of this mini series. So part 2, we kind of pick up where we left off. Kind of fun to think about how the last ski on part 1 was a Blizzard Rustler 10, and then if you kind of consider it to just continue to the other side in that DPS Wailer 100. That's kind of the progression that we were looking for. So took a big list, chopped it in half, and this is part 2 of that list. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone, as this is like clearly a huge category.
Totally. Yeah, and it's interesting with this wall in particular because there's a lot of similarities in terms of construction materials, but they ski so differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of poplar, a lot of Titanol.
Yeah.
But they are all very, very different in their own right.
Yeah, and it's kind of easy to, like, simplistic to think that once you kind of get to this side of the wall, then we're starting to look at much more business-like skis in terms of on-trail carving power and performance, and then your side over there is leaning a little bit more towards the free ride, a little bit lighter weight, more agile skis. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're going through, is that in this width range, there's a whole nother range on Matt's side past that Wailer. So,
yeah.
Again, hopefully this makes sense. We'll do our best to keep it moving and have some fun with this conversation. You want to hand me that first one there?
Totally.
So new ski, kind of an older name. This is a DPS Wailer 100. The Wailer name has been around for quite a while in DPS's lineup, really kind of alluding to their all-mountain powder ski style. This has a little bit different of a construction here, as opposed to 2 full sheets of carbon like we'll see in Kaizen there in a minute. This features their new hybrid core. So it's a full poplar wood core, and then we get carbon strips embedded in fiberglass laminates both above and below the wood core. So it's a little bit more, it's a little less sophisticated, a little bit more of an every person ski. I think some people didn't love that full dual carbon feel. They still have Kaizen for that, but the Wailer 100 uses more of a traditional carbon strip or carbon stringer type of construction, and that just makes it a little bit more playful and a little bit more amenable to softer snow and a little bit more free-ridey, whereas when we pick up that Kaizen, it certainly feels more substantial. We do have the binding plate on this. It's usually about 200 grams, so 2218 on the scale, so just below 2,000, and that's kind of, it's still like a solid ski. You know, that's kind of the cool thing about this, is there's some force to it, but then the shape is what puts it on that side of the wall.
Totally.
And we'll see this in the Kaizen as well, where they are strictly adhering to a 15-meter turn radius. And in order to get a ski this wide to have that shape of a turn, they got to do some weird stuff with the taper shape and rocker profile. So right off the bat, tons of tip rocker and just kind of an obscene amount of splay here, Matt.
Big time, yeah.
Really just designed to make the shovel rise right up out of the snow. And then also a very dramatic taper shape. So the widest part of the ski is brought well down into it. And then when you pair it with that long rocker profile, not as dramatic back here, with that lower taper shape. Like this is a pretty heavily tapered ski. Your effective edge ends up being very short, and that equates to that 15-meter turn radius. So I think that it's important to note that with this Wailer 100, that skiers will be more coerced into making that shorter turn, and this ski ends up doing a lot of the work for you. We'll see that similar shape in Kaizen, but we don't see a whole lot else that fits this turn shape here. This is definitely one of the easiest skis to turn, and that's why it's on that side. It really just focuses on the drama of the shape and the profile to make it just an incredible floater for 100. And we'll kind of discuss that as well with your ZX up next, Matt, but it's amazing what they can get out of a ski that's not traditionally like a powder ski shape. It's not a 120.
Right.
You know, it's 100, yet it floats incredibly well and really serves a skier looking for something that does the work for them. It really does a good job at that. And we'll have a similar discussion with Kaizen and probably a few other skis on this wall. But I really like starting out with this one and kind of getting it out of the way that this is a narrow powder ski.
Right.
And DPS does a better job than pretty much anyone making that happen.
For sure. And just going back to what you were saying about allowing the ski to do the work for you, is there's a good amount of camber to it too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of packed energy in there, and definitely more energetic, I would say, than the Kaizen. The Kaizen is a little bit more damp, a little bit more sturdy,
Yeah.
in its feeling on snow. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a blast. Just super maneuverable, but still get the benefits of being a little bit narrower compared to a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Of a powder-shaped ski.
No, and it's funny because like on paper, like I'm not really a 15-meter turn radius type of skier, but on snow, I really like it.
Yeah.
I just really like
blast.
how engaging and energetic it is for sure.
Absolutely. So up next here we have a Kastle ZX100. You know, it's pretty cool because it shares a lot of similar shaping characteristics to the Paragon, but they just take the metal out, and they use a blend of poplar and beech for the wood core. So keeping the energy alive in it, making it feel very lively, but also very stable at the same time. And then on top of that, they do add some fiberglass to it just to bolster the energy a bit. And kind of a similar philosophy, I would say, to the Wailer, where it's got some powder shaping, but in a more narrow format. And since it doesn't have the metal like the Paragon does, it's a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more forgiving, and just super maneuverable. Like, I know that you are a big fan of this ski.
Yeah.
It matches your skiing style very well. Short skidded turns and just really maneuverable in the trees. So that's kind of the biggest difference between the Paragon and the ZX, is that those more mobile situations that you find yourself in, this is going to be a very useful tool.
Yeah. No, I think that this, you know, again, on paper, I'm a Paragon skier, but on snow, I'm a ZX skier. Like,
Right.
I just like that style of having the energy and the mobility to it. And like for this thing, if you want to put them together and show that tip rocker profile, and I think that like this difference is huge. Like the difference between tip rocker and tail rocker in this ski really make it kind of stand out, because you're getting a floaty tip here and then a much more flat and directional tail. That's kind of, for me, that's a nice kind of sauce for being agile in the trees, is because the shovel is able to drift around, and then you get nice responsiveness out of the tail.
Yeah.
You know, something like a bent 100 that was on the other wall, that also fell into the category of being a really fun tree ski. Kind of the main difference here is the amount of rocker in the tail, and just kind of that lack of directional nature in the bent. That gets put into ZX. But yeah, totally like a surprisingly fun ski.
For sure.
You know, when Kastle kind of comes out with something that's like, oh, we're making this, you know, this freeride ski without metal. And it's like, oh, that doesn't sound like Kastle.
No, not at all.
But then you get on that thing and it's just incredibly impressive.
Totally.
And just kind of speaks to Kastle's quality as well, how they're able to take the same ingredients that are in other skis. It's wood, fiberglass, plastic, and then this thing just feels like a more upscale product to me.
For sure. And also I forgot to mention that it does have some hollow tech in the tip, just to decrease the swing weight. And then also in the tip, you do get some nice early taper just to make them a little bit less catchy in the deeper snow. But yeah, there's a bunch of energy, a bunch of grip out of the tail with it being so flat and the lack of rocker. So it's a really, really, really fun ski for someone that is a directional skier that wants a little bit more of a drifty and more smeary feel, but also have that on the back end as well.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about kind of the opposite end when we get to Paragon here is like everything we said about that, but more aggressive, more power, more damping,
Right.
and also a little bit more weight. So it just kind of feels different on snow, but a very similar footprint overall. But yeah, very impressed with those. It was 1920.
1920?
Yeah, I remember that number. So some nice density in there as well. So that's pretty cool.
Great. And I mean, 1920, I mean, at least for me, that's in my touring realm.
Well, you're very strong and you like to carry heavy things uphill. Good for you.
I don't care really how much it weighs. I
Yeah.
prefer the down.
Yeah.
And this, I think, would probably make for a pretty good option for a directional backcountry skier
Yeah.
that just wants something maneuverable but still strong.
Yeah, and ZX is pretty funny because they were all based off of the 108 was like the first one.
Yeah.
And that thing kind of gave birth to all of these other ZXs. So even down to the 92, which is one of the better floating 92s.
Right.
So like that takes wide ski influence and puts it in a narrower format, which is usually an indication that it's going to be a good floater for its width.
For sure. Moving on.
New ski. Yeah, this is an Elan Ripstick 102. We did do a full review on this ski this past year. Really put in a lot of time on this 102, both here at Stowe and at some of the demo events we went to, Waterville and Pico.
Yep.
And really kind of got a chance to put this ski through its paces. This is a new width for Elan, so it's like they had the Ripstick 96 and then the 106, and now they have a 96, 102, and a 108. 102 gets this as well as the black edition that we'll discuss in two skis, and the 96 does as well. The 108 is just the 108. So really interesting what they've done is kind of met in a narrower format. So you kind of think about it, this is replacing the 106, I guess.
Right.
Even though it's pretty close in width and overall application. And then that 108 takes the wider of the Ripstick line. And then they got the Playmaker 111 as well, which is now their widest ski.
Yeah, I think this definitely helps split up their line a little bit more, just make it a little bit more approachable, because that's a pretty big jump, 96 to 106.
Yeah.
And then don't really have anything after that unless
Yeah.
you go to like the 116. So I think segmenting it up like that really helps a lot when you're shopping.
Yeah, and for skiers that are looking for lightweight performance and just incredible mobility at this width, this is a place to be. You're on the scale there at about 1,800 grams, just like on the nose.
Yeah.
In this 182. Slightly different construction here. We still are dealing with the tube light wood core. We talk about the carbon rods that go along the sidewall like all the time. That 360-degree application of carbon really gives the ski a different amount of energy and feedback than anything else on this wall, especially when you compare it to kind of directional carbon like how DPS uses. These just have a very different feel. And then a couple more things that they did is they got rid of vapor tip technology and then replaced it with a layer of flax. I've kind of found that vapor tip allowed them to use a thicker wood core from tip to tail, especially in the shovel. And then when they remove that and put in the flax, it's thinner. So when we look at like the old 96 or 106, it's just a thicker core profile. And what that does is it makes the shovel of this a little bit more flexible than what we saw in the 106 in the past. So it's going to be easier for turn initiation, better for swing weight, allows the ski to flex more torsionally, and that's going to be good for some skiers and not as good for others. I think that old 106 is, I guess it's the blue, the 106 blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 106 blue, that had a surprising amount of energy and stability to it, even without going to the black edition. And this just kind of makes it more mobile and agile with a bit more flex. So I think that Jeff would have been more interested in this conversation. I think you and I had a more similar experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas like when Jeff and I are talking about skis like this, we'll have different experiences. That leads us to think that this is kind of a weight dependent ski, and that heavier and more aggressive skiers like us are just going to push through this tip a little bit easier. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be incredibly rewarding for skiers of lighter weights or more average sizes, but if you're a bigger skier, there are some limitations, especially on firmer snow. Like if you're expecting this shovel to hook up in firm snow, there's much better options, and for the most part, you're going to want to be on this side of the wall anyway.
Yeah.
Highlights of the Elan include agility, mobility, flotation, trees, and overall fun.
Yeah, its flickability is just crazy.
Yeah,
like it feels like there's nothing on your feet, like at all. Yeah, I mean, we struggled with that tip a little bit, but I mean, we're 200 plus pounds, and like just following Jeff, he has no issue whatsoever. And even though it is a pretty soft tip, I still felt very stable and confident underfoot. Pretty much anywhere from here back, I was like, sweet. But sometimes in the tip, I was kind of like, oh. But then that did change a little bit with the Black Edition. So that's why you have that ski as an option.
No, it's the tubes. Like that's,
the tube.
That's what does it. They also added 2 strips of unidirectional carbon in the middle of the ski, and those go under the core as opposed to on top. We used to have a carbon laminate on top of the core, and basically moving the carbon closer to the snow gives more distance between that material and your foot and just increases the smoothness of the ski. So we'll talk about kind of material placement in skis, especially when we get over here to Mantra and Anomaly, where different layers serve different purposes. But Elan certainly honed in on the fact that putting the carbon closer to the snow and further away from your foot developed some insulation properties and just made the ski quieter overall. And these are still asymmetric, so we have a right and a left ski with amphibio rocker profile. So not only is it long, but it is also specific to the ski. So the inside edge of this is the right ski here, the inside edge has more camber and the outside has more rocker. So that allows these skis to function as more of a cohesive unit and increase the smoothness. Like they don't wander or drift. They track perfectly well alongside of each other.
For sure.
Pretty cool how they feel like one unit on your feet.
And I felt that for sure, especially on skidded turns, because like you don't feel your uphill ski catching it all. Like it just is, it tracks very, very well because there's more rocker on the outside. Yeah. The inside edge of your uphill ski.
No,
a little bit of mental gymnastics there.
Yeah, no, it's easy to get it twisted, but the basic point is that if you got them on the proper feet, they're going to feel very smooth and connected. And the same thing's true in the tail. Like not a huge amount of splay here. You know, just that more directional style of ski. And we had Playmaker 101 on the other wall, and that was, I believe, the first ski on the other wall.
Makes sense.
So this is really, it's more consistent, you know, especially through the middle of the ski and through the tail in terms of performance than that Playmaker. If you are looking for really that next level of freeride performance and flotation, then the Playmaker's easier to use in softer snow. But if you're mixing, this is the place to be.
Yeah.
And like I had a lot of success on this ski. I'll hand them back to you, especially in like bumps and trees here at Stowe. Following my kids, like I took them up on a Friday program day, and they were like, "Let's go do Hackett's Highway." And like, if you know Hackett's Highway, it's just like steep drop-offs, bumps, all sorts of stuff. And this thing was like you said, effortless. Like it felt like there was nothing there. And was just incredibly easy to ski. We did have like our demo version, and it was a little bit on the rocky side that day, so I said that one and done here. Like,
yeah, right.
Let's go explore somewhere else.
We tested it, we're good,
snow.
we can move on.
Yeah, but really cool to see Elan's direction with the ripsticks and kind of who they're for and use case scenario. I think changes a little bit from 106 from last year, but certainly has a wide and valid audience.
For sure. And then this is going to continue to be a discussion, at least on my side of the wall, but we do have some skin clips, which is an indication of its touring capabilities. Another indication was its weight, that 1,800 grams.
Yeah.
So we'll start to see that touring capability slowly drift away once we start going over there towards Bob, but this is definitely one of those that would be a great option for that.
Yep.
Moving on to the brand new Rossignol Sender Soul
I'll take that
102.
one if you want to grab that one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it on the scale.
Yeah, no use doing it. So brand new with this year in 2025, we get the Sender Soul 102 from Rossignol. This one, you get a poplar wood core with some titanal as well. And then in the tips and tails, we also do get, actually, no, just in the tips,
Just
right?
in the tip,
Yeah,
air tip.
air
and the
tip. Yep, that's why it's not called air tail. So just
That's
decreasing
next
the
year.
That's next year, right? But yeah, this is a great kind of play on the Soul 7 from years past, as well as the success of the Sender Free 110. At least that's my opinion.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of success with that ski, so they kind of just took them both and was just, here you go. But then there was also the Sender 102 Ti from
104.
104.
Yeah. The girls was the Rally Bird was
Rally
the
Bird
102.
102. Yeah, so just kind of building off of the better attributes of each of those skis, and this is the result. So really, really nice, smooth, even flex pattern with the poplar and the titanal. It's got some heft to it. I mean, that might be the bindings, but it's definitely got some sturdiness to it, which really adds to its smoothness on trail. A little bit more tail rocker than the last Sender Soul 104.
Yeah, if you want to show that.
Yeah.
That's certainly one of the big changes for this year.
Yeah, so we'll start with the tip rocker. I mean, that's a decent amount, which is part of the reason why it's over here on this side of the wall. And then good amount of camber as well, added to that energy. And then this is where the really meat and potatoes of the story is. A lot of tail rocker, nice and low and long, but still giving you enough effective edge to really be able to hook it up on trail when you encounter some firmer snow conditions, but then the rocker profile really, really comes alive once you get into some softer snow. But also a little bit of early taper, not a lot. It's a little bit more of a traditional tip.
Yeah.
So it is indicative of it being pretty turny, especially in softer snow, more deeper snow. But really versatile, just really, really versatile. East, West Coast, I think this is a winner for either side or anywhere in the world, really. But yeah, really, really interesting ski.
No, and I think you hit it right on the head with the word versatile. And, skis on your side there do fit more into the versatile side because they're technically in the middle of our entire wall.
Right.
And we had a pretty interesting day on these this year where it was one of those things where it was raining all the way up the mountain road. We park, carpool up, get on the lift, go up about a third of the way, and then it turns to snow.
Yeah.
And so those days are really interesting because, one, no one's there.
No.
You get like a free powder day to yourself, untracked, wherever you want. And two, if it's like 3-4 inches like it was, but dense, it feels bottomless. And this is our Vermont bias talking about bottomless powder, but you don't get through the top layer. So in essence, it feels like you're not touching the bottom.
Exactly.
And like this outperformed any of my expectations. And in this length too, this 180, which I kind of thought was going to be too short given the shape and the flex here, but I was surprised at how well it held up. Pretty thick vertical sidewalls throughout, nice thick core profile. I was surprised at the sturdiness of it, and then the shovel floated really, really well in it was pretty rough conditions.
Yeah, it was rough.
And if you didn't get first or fresh tracks, it was really manky.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at how well these held up in those conditions. It's fun those days to go in the trees too, because you kind of get, that's where all the fresh snow is. It's in the trees, and you can kind of use that wetter snow to control your speed, and it's fun.
Right.
You can be soaking wet, but still have a nice time out there. Like, it was one of my more favorite days of the year because you just get untracked snow the whole time.
Right. And then on the previous video, you had the Black Ops 98.
Yep.
And I had very similar feelings about that, but that's a twin tip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both of them work for those kind of conditions, but this is more that directional, just a little bit wider.
Yeah.
But very similar themes for sure.
But this thing it checks a ton of boxes. This is just one of those skis that we talk about it with like the QST 92 a lot. Like if you don't know what to get, like get this. Like it's an extraordinarily safe bet. It does everything really, really well. You know, we kind of talked about superlatives yesterday and when to use them and when not to use them. But like this is probably one of the most well-rounded skis with the highest level of versatility that's going to cover the most ground.
Totally.
So I think that's great from Rossignol. You know, again, like you said, Matt, kind of hooking back into soul as kind of a name and an attitude towards the ski, I think makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I mean, this is one of those skis that's great to have in your quiver if you go out west for once a year and you just want one ski to bring.
Yeah.
I feel like this would be a fantastic choice.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that.
We're back.
We're back to ripsticks. You know, it's not going to be a huge conversation here. There are, you know, somewhat standard changes in construction from 102 Blue to 102 Black Edition. Most notably, they do still use the quad rod technology, so same tube light wood core, tubes on the side, and then one extra in the forebody and another extra in the tail behind the binding zone. So we do get the added stability of those two extra carbon tubes. And then we still get that carbon, that unidirectional carbon along the bottom here, and then a C-ply, a carbon laminate on the top under the binding zone. So like last year in the 106 Black, it was more of a full laminate on top. This year it's more in the middle. So they are putting more emphasis on that the unidirectional carbon in order to make the ski more energetic and responsive. 1,780 grams. You want to put that 102 Blue on the scale too?
Yeah, I thought this one was 1,800.
I did this the other day, and you know, not terribly surprised. As someone asked, you know, what the weight difference is because the catalog lists them the same, and you kind of assume that if something is of a more high performance nature, then naturally it's going to be heavier.
Right.
But that's not the case. These are kind of within range of being the exact same weight. If you think about it, they're removing wood and adding carbon.
Yep,
So
totally makes sense.
If there's like a neutral in weight change, then and then the only difference from there is that C-ply, you know, that really thin sheet of carbon underfoot. So it's not like there's more wood in the ski. They have very similar overall profiles and similar, exact same footprints too.
Speaking of which, you should probably have that profile.
Well, we already did it with the 102 Blue, so not a whole lot of need to talk about it again, but very much that soft, you know, that softer shovel aligns well with the taper in the front, and then we get amphibio as well. So we're seeing that same right-left cohesiveness, but not a huge difference in flex either. You know, like none of the carbon updates for Black Edition occur in the shovel. You know, we still remove vapor tips in favor of flax. So really none of the stiffness changes in the shovel. And, you know, you and I kind of found that to be a similar problem as 102 Blue, where it's easy to flex the shovel.
Yeah.
Once you get past that zone and you're centered in the middle of the ski, you can feel that additional smoothness and stability with the extra carbon, but in the shovel, it's the same.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my big findings, whereas in years past, that carbon extended further, the vapor tips added a little bit of density to the shovel because it required a thicker wood core, but definitely an interesting move, and I think that skiers that are still looking for, you know, the agility of a 102 Blue, but want a little bit more robust feeling underfoot and better edge grip and torsional stiffness in that zone, that's who's going to move to the Black Edition. But I found, and I think you did too, I'll let you chime in, but I found less of a difference between 102 Blue and 102 Black than 106 Blue and 106 Black, or 96 Green and 96 Black.
100% agree. Yeah. Like it wasn't anything significant Like I could definitely feel it a little bit, but it wasn't like a wholesale
Yeah.
full, like this is a completely different ski. But that marginal difference could make a major impact on a lot of skiers, especially at a lower weight.
Yeah.
Like Jeff notices a massive difference. So I think that if you're lower weight in like the 160 to 170 range, somewhere around there, you will certainly feel it. But if you're 200 plus, kind of out of luck.
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah, especially in the shovel. I think that that's kind of the important thing to note is that from the mid body forward, it's very similar to the blue.
Right.
The blue ski.
Yeah, and it's just as maneuverable too. Like you can be 200 pounds and over and a very powerful skier, but what you're gaining from that is the lightness and the quickness of it that is really, really advantageous that you can't really get with anything over on that wall.
Yeah.
I mean, that side of the wall.
Yeah, a different conversation with carbon
Yeah.
in your Kaizen here.
Yep. So
I got this.
you got that one. All right. So the 25 DPS Kaizen 100 is back. Same shape, same color, same everything. We do get a split core, so horizontal laminates instead of vertical stringers of poplar and ash. And then sandwiching that, you do get 2 full laminates of aerospace grade carbon fiber.
Fancy stuff.
As well as a binding reinforcement. I think that this binding reinforcement is due to how thin the core profile is, as well as its application of being kind of a full free ride ski that a lot of people will be touring on. DPS is kind of a touring brand, so they just want to make sure that your bindings are going to stay in when you're deep in the backcountry, hucking off cliffs or pillows or whatever it might be. But this thing's a hooky ski, which is a lot of fun. Coming in at just over 2,000 grams, 2,034.
And this is the long. This is
Yeah.
a 180 something. I can't see from here, but
189.
189. So that's a proper length ski. So it makes sense that it's over that 2,000 gram mark.
For sure. So similar to what we were talking about with Wailer, lots and lots of dramatic rocker tip and not so much tail. So super maneuverable, really, really easy to get the ski to hook up and engage into a turn, whether it be on like firmer snow or some deeper snow as well. A lot of positive camber as well, just bolstering that kind of energy and responsiveness. That combined with the carbon makes this thing very energetic and very snappy, but also really damp. That was my kind of main takeaway from at least the 105.
Yeah.
Was just how damp it was and how smooth. And that combined with the tight turning radius kind of combines for a pretty interesting ride. Lots of early taper in the tips just to then kind of counteracting how hooky the side cut is, that 15-meter turn radius, kind of counteracting that for when you're in deeper snow, just making them a little bit more user-friendly. But yeah, absolute blast. This thing is a dream in soft snow, as well as some kind of pack powder groomers or anything of that sort.
Yeah, this thing's my jam. I don't know if you knew that, but I am like a huge fan of Kaizen and Wailers that adhere to this 15-meter radius. Like the Pagoda 100 was like one of my favorite skis over the past few years.
Didn't know that.
And when they moved kind of that realm to Kaizen, it was a little unnerving, but also interesting how they went like the 100 gets the 15-meter arc, and then the blue 105 gets the 18, and then the wider 112 is back to 15. So they like split up the Kaizen line into kind of shorter turn, longer turn with the 105, and then back to shorter and more floaty with the 112. So I think that's pretty interesting, but it's the other thing that stands out is that I don't know how many 189s out there in the world have a 15-meter turn radius. Like this might be the only one.
Might be.
And so those unique sets of, construction to shape kind of mixes and blends, this creates a whole different concoction.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing else out there like a Carbon Kaizen 100.
No.
It's pretty crazy. And if you were ever a fan of like that Soul 7 and wanted something that's a little bit more modern and full carbon and a little bit burlier, than the new Center Sole 102 with a shorter radius, then I've always kind of steered people towards DPS skis with that 15-meter arc, because you do get a very dramatic shovel shape here and a burlier build. Like, this is definitely a sturdier ski than that sole was, you know, especially in the shovel. Those had very, very light tips. They're very floaty, so when you got them in soft snow, they did great. But anything other than that, and this is going to hold up a lot better.
Yeah.
Comes with a pretty steep price tag, you know, and that's going to divert a lot of business. But I think skiers that want something that has that handmade in the USA stamp on it, they like that aerospace carbon, you know, that's prime material. You know, the working theory is that it doesn't change from day 1 to day 400, so that carbon really retains a lot of its properties. So handmade, high quality, you know, longevity, I think are things that are working in DPS's favor in terms of that pricing, but they're like, I don't know, $1,600 or something like that.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah, pretty steep price, but you know, that's, you know, unfortunately, that's kind of what it costs to have a handmade ski domestically.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to pay a little bit more. I know there are some other domestic skis that come in at a lower price point, but they don't have the same quality and construction of a Kaizen.
Yep. New one for you, Bob.
Yeah, I like this one. Liberty Radian 100. Sorry, we don't have a longer length. This one kind of looks silly.
Looks a little silly.
But Liberty, really interesting moves for this year. So basically, this is taking over from where Evolve 100 left off. So Evolve is gone, and it's simple to say that Radian replaced Evolve and that Scope replaced Origin. But they are different, and these are, I would say, a little bit even more different, kind of blending Origin and Evolve into a more versatile all-mountain ski. Evolve, I don't know how much experience you had with the Evolves, but they were like very wide, but very front side and low profile.
Yeah.
So camber, but very squared off tail, and not a lot of rocker in the tip, and not a lot of like this is a vastly different tip shape than the Evolve 100, which was just more.
It was very square,
off.
and there was like very minimal splay from what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is really moving in a different direction, and I think that the move towards more versatile performance makes sense, just because those Evolves were locked in, and that was great, but they were also locked in and not really amenable to doing other things.
Right.
So Radian is kind of taking that in a different direction. We do get a blend of poplar and ash in the wood core. We don't get any more bamboo, unfortunately. I really like the silence and the smoothness of that bamboo. But this new core allows them to go with a thinner profile, and that's making it precise, reactive, and then also lighter and easier to flick around and move. We still get to say VMT.
Yeah,
you
that's
know
still
that?
cool. Yeah.
So VMT used to be vertical metal technology. Liberty was always real big in that, kind of like how Rossi uses their line control technology, that vertical strip
similar.
of ABS. So they used vertical strips of metal in between the wood stringers in order to increase the stability and dampness of the ski without adding like the full weight of a whole carbon sheet. So that was vertical. This is now variable metal technology, and basically it's a metal plate that goes from about here to here, full width underfoot, and then it tapers to a point in the shovel here. You can actually see it through their little window there, and you can also see these two little carbon strips that run alongside, just adding to the energetic overall feel. Pretty light. If we're subtracting 200 for the binding plate, and this is a 173, nice shorty here, and we're right around 2,000, so safe to assume about 1,800 grams in the 173, and thin profile. This is like the biggest difference from Evolve to Radian, is they're really thinning the core profile and adding that sturdier wood in here and that horizontal metal. So big changes, totally new ski. Like we kind of have been joking this year that Liberty could have changed their name.
Yeah,
and,
no, I was about to say the big sidewall was
Yeah.
the main thing, like that's a Liberty,
Yep.
no matter what. Yeah.
So really interesting stuff. And then on snow, this is a much more engaging ski than we've ever seen from Liberty. The Evolves were great. They were smooth and strong, but they weren't as precise or as reactive or as zesty as these are.
Yeah.
And you know, from the moment I got on the Radian 92 first, and thought this is going to work really well for me in Stowe.
Yeah.
And then got on the 100 on like a slightly softer day, kind of a more spring-like day. And it took all of like the mogul and short-turn performance of the 92 and then just added another layer of stability and smoothness. It doesn't feel like a wider ski. It just feels more competent at speed and in variable conditions and terrain.
Totally.
But still like super light and flickable.
I mean, this seemed like a crowd favorite from the ski test. People were
Yeah.
very surprised by how much they liked it.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see.
Yeah,
And good
no.
for Liberty.
I like it when people's like, when they think that a ski is going to be one way and that it ends up being something different.
Yeah.
And I think Radian was one of the top skis in that regard this year in our test. And, you know, we've gotten to look at a lot of feedback. So it's been nice to see how people feel about this. But nice long, low rocker here. You know, tips certainly capable of floating. We do have that early taper shape as well. So that's kind of a nod to that Origin series in terms of soft snow, and then more directional in the tail. So not a lot of splay here, not a long rocker profile, but we do see kind of like this is a lot more Origin than
Right.
Evolve for
Yeah.
sure in terms of this tail shape. But you just end up getting a lot of energy out of the tail at the end of the carved turn. 17.5 meter turn radius in this one. I think that it's easy to assume that when you go up to like the 180 or something like that, that goes up to 18 meters, kind of right in the middle of everything. And that's another reason for this ski's, what I'm hoping is future success, is
Yeah.
like, it's very well rounded. It's surprisingly stiff for how thin the core profile is, and you know, especially in the shovel. So like this is like a similar thickness to like the Ripsticks,
Yeah.
but this is stiffer. So it's definitely has a little bit more of that responsive nature and stability in the shovel. But I had a blast on this. Bumps, trees, groomers, really did a lot of things well, and just took everything that I liked about the agility of the 92, put it into a more comfortable package.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I noticed about these skis, it seems like the mount point is pretty far back.
Totally. I noticed
like,
that
could
about
you-
the 92 as well.
Could you really feel that on snow? I didn't spend time on this ski, unfortunately, but it just seemed like it worked really well for the design. Like it seemed like
Yeah.
it fit for what this likes to do.
Yeah, if you think about like how the taper is brought down, so you're not really using that part of the ski, then it makes a little bit more sense why that mount point seems further back.
Yeah.
And like if you put it back on the wall and compare it to that Dynastar, and granted it's a little bit shorter, but like it's not that much farther back given the length, but
Yeah, right about there.
yeah, a few centimeters back. And, you know, it is optically interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just goes to show how much energy and stiffness you get out of the tail.
Out of the tail,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. Ready to move on?
Moving on.
All right. Next here we have the Dynastar M-Pro 100. We do get a switch from the 99, which I know that you, Bob, are a little bit sad about.
I'm
but
sad, but I'm also happy with this new ski. But
Yeah.
I mean, that 99 from day one was like right up my alley.
Yeah. So Dynastar does something pretty cool with their construction, and I don't think any other skis on this wall have this style. But we do get this central wood core here down the middle, and that uses 3 layers of poplar, where the top 2 layers kind of fit together kind of like in a jigsaw way like that, just to reduce the amount of adhesive. So trying to bring the weight down, as well as have a little bit more of an environmentally conscious approach to its construction. And then these black sections along the side are Dynastar's PU material, which really helps with some vibration damping and just bolstering the overall stiffness of the ski. I remember when we did our media day with Dynastar, it was a less than ideal day where
Yeah.
it was like skiing in your freezer.
It was horrible.
It was terrible. It was so firm.
Yeah.
Just like you were skiing on ball bearings with just a iron sheet underneath it.
Yeah.
And I was very shocked at how well these things tracked and how well they hooked up for having this much rocker,
Yeah.
being this wide. I was really, really impressed and really, really enjoyed it. The entire time I was thinking, I wish I could take these out on like a perfect pack powder groomer, because it would have been a dream.
Yeah.
But really, really cool ski. And there is some stiffness to it. There is some sturdiness to it. And I actually didn't even get the weight, but like put that back. About 1,900 grams.
Yep.
So really good weight for this ski. Nice thick core profile as well, kind of showing off how much stability and power there is to them, as well as the amount of positive camber as well. But good amount of tip rocker. This is like, for me, like a pretty ideal amount for this style of ski. Like it's not too much, it's not too little. It's kind of right in the right down the center.
It's almost like they moved to like M-free style tip rocker profile.
Right.
You know, like the old 99 was like even more dramatic, more bananaed out, almost like DPS style.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more M-free notes, which I think works well for the direction they're going with this ski.
Totally. And then going into the tail, very similar to what we've seen on most of this side of the wall here. A decent amount, but nothing crazy, not a lot of splay, just to kind of bolster that all mountain performance while still maintaining a good amount of soft snow and free ride as well. So really, really cool ski. And some nice touches that I like. You do get a little bit of these kind of aluminum inserts in the tips just to help with delamination. But yeah, just a really refined ski, I think, which is nice to see.
The metal changed too.
Yep.
So
Forgot
we
to mention that.
had
Thank you.
rocket frame in the previous versions, and this brings that front part used to extend further into the ski, and then the back end used to extend further into the tail and flatten out at the back. Now we basically have their H-shaped in the back that we saw on the M-Cross, like the M-Cross 88 that came out last year. That is the metal shape that they're using in the tail, with a slight drop in the tip in terms of the metal. So everything about this thing is rounder.
Yeah.
That's what we've noticed. Like, I really like that 99 because I can make very much like mogul turns without moguls.
Totally.
You know, like that was what those things did really well. The tail was just super engaging and very powerful, almost to a fault. And I think that's why they kind of ended up going this way, is because not everyone liked how rugged that tail was.
Yeah.
So now with that, it's a much rounder shape. Metal's brought further into the ski. Radius has shortened from like 19 to 17 or something like that in this length.
17.
It was either 19 or 20 in the similar length in the 99. So like that's a pretty significant drop, and just makes much rounder turns. So that's kind of the move they're making here. And we talk about this PU material a lot. It's incredible what they get out of it. Like, you know, if you just on the surface hear that they put plastic in, you know, 40% of the core, you're like, oh, I don't want to ski with that's 40% plastic. And then you get on it and you're like, oh, this actually works really, really well.
It's amazing. I was shocked. Because I'll be honest, I was one of those people. I'm like, what? Like, really? And then I got on, I was like, sold. Like, this is great. This works perfectly for what they're looking for it to do.
Even when you feel like the core, like we've had the core profile, like the sample with the wood and the PU along the side, and it's like a feather in your hand.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much additional materials, you know, the fiberglass, the metal, that stuff, you know, the less epoxy that they're using, but there's still epoxy in there, how much all of that contributes to the weight and the overall energy of the ski. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I'm psyched about this. Yeah, I'm sad about the 99, but that thing, it never caught on. You know, like for how good it was and how much it fit my style, I just couldn't believe that you'd never see him out on the mountain.
Never. Yeah, no. I think I've seen two.
Yeah.
2 pairs in the wild.
And it's like that noticeable that you're like, hey, that guy's on an M-Pro 99.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe it because it was such a good ski.
Yeah.
And it just didn't catch on, which is unfortunate.
I think that the mix of bringing this into a more rounder and more friendly overall feel, and then just like the curb appeal is a little nicer.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that we'll see it won't be as shocking when we see an M-Pro 100 in the wild this year.
Right.
So that's cool. And, you know, they just make such nice skis.
Yeah.
And we had the M-Free 99 on the other wall. Again, like very similar discussion in terms of how do they make this polyurethane so effective in a ski. Combine that with just really nice progressive shaping, and that M-Free 99 is so fun.
Yeah.
And this is just a much more business-like version of that ski. Another one of my favorites. I mean, like, there's a lot of favorites on this wall. Like we talked about this before. Like, there's so many skis on this wall for me specifically that make perfect sense. You know, Jeff was definitely like farther end of part one's wall for where his preferences lie due to his allegiances in the sport. But, you know, for me, Headcore 99 is just like a wonderful blend of things that I like to do personally, and I think that a lot of other skiers do as well. So combining lightweight energy, incredible stability and power with a stiff flex, that's where this Headcore 99 lives. We are at 1,670 grams. That's a function of a lightweight Karuba wood core combined with 2 full sheets of carbon, similar to that DPS, although the top sheet of carbon in this core is curved. And anytime you're putting carbon or other laminates in a multi-dimensional format, you're increasing the stiffness and the energy. So these end up being, you know, pretty darn stiff, especially for being sub 1,700 grams. They also added some damping layers in here over the years. It's interesting kind of the journey of the core skis from going like top sheetless to just being a little bit pingy with the carbon. So they added damping layers, they added a top sheet, made it a little bit more kind of user-friendly for skiers that are trying to get into it. And that has made this Core 99 just like one of the most interesting skis out there.
Totally, yeah.
I like interesting skis. And these certainly fit that description quite well in terms of how much energy and power you get. This is the 177, and you know, it looks short for you and I, but because it's so stiff, like I've had a good time on this.
Same. Yeah, I was perfectly fine with the 177 when I got on it, yeah.
I feel like sizing up doesn't do skiers any favors. You might think like, oh, it's only 1,660 grams. I'm gonna need the 191.
Right.
You know, at my height. And like, I don't think that's the case. I think this is a lot more weight-based and preference-based than anything else. And for how well this thing carves in this length, it's also extremely mobile and versatile.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
It is difficult to kind of push through bumps and expect like bent 100 type of performance in moguls and trees.
Yeah.
But because it's so light, you can at least make it work. And then when you pop out on the trail, like it's trench town. Like,
Yeah.
these things carve so incredibly well. You know, I own a Core 93, and I think that makes maybe a little bit more sense for what I do here in Stowe, like following my kids and jumping around in the woods and popping out on the trail. But I also think that this would work really well, and can kind of have a similar conversation when we get to Nordica, as we've had debates about 94 versus 99. I think that Core, you can have very similar discussions, like what's the proper width.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that this one's almost more useful if you're a little bit softer snow conditions. I'm not sure I have the same feelings with Enforcer at this point, but Core certainly. You know, that 93 does get, it's almost too sharp and it digs in too much. So having just a little bit of extra material in the 99 is a lot more helpful in softer snow. But man, when you get this thing on firm snow, and if you are able to, if you have the weight and the skill to get it up on its edge, you will be rewarded with like the most power and energy.
Totally. Yep.
Like it's more powerful than almost anything here. You know, maybe the Mantra 102 and the Anomaly have more like raw power, but like you got to hold on tight with this thing.
Totally, yeah.
And that makes it not for everyone. Like that's kind of what we've learned over the years, is that it's not the ideal ski for everyone. But if you have some weight behind you and you don't mind getting it up on a high edge angle, you're going to be rewarded.
You know, when we were in Waterville, that was my first time on the 99.
Yeah.
And like going into it, I was like, I've been told this thing's stiff.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be like hang on tight kind of a thing. And all I had was those rewarding feelings. Every single turn, I was like, oh my God, this thing is awesome.
Yeah.
But then like I did find that with my weight in the tip, I was able to manipulate the tip a little bit more than I thought. Like I remember going down doing a bunch of carving, and then there's this kind of roller, and I just did a nose butter 360 on it, and it felt like I was on like a park ski.
Yeah.
Where how much flex there was in the tip, and I was just like, this thing is a blast for the right person.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you definitely have to go into it knowing that there's some heft and power behind it, but
Yeah.
you will be.
You need to be an active participant in order to get the most out of it.
100%.
And if you're not, then don't expect that performance, but also it's totally amenable to people that are using low edge angles and just want something that's mobile because it's light.
Yep.
You know, and it's considerably more robust than a Ripstick 102, you know, where you can use that, you can apply that same theory. You can be a lighter skier and kind of swivel it around and be fine. This just gives you the option of that extra power and performance.
Yeah.
Also a little bit more traditional of a shape and profile. Once you go from, so cores 87, 93, and 99 all share this same or similar kind of footprint and profile. Once you go to 105, core 105, then you see a lot more taper and rocker added in. But this 99 does have more in common with the 93 and 87. So you do have to be aware of that. Like maybe this shape works better with that 87 than the 99. But that's preference and use case, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a whole lot of drama in the tip, and then not a whole lot going on in the tail either. 17 meter turn radius in this 177, and it turns on a dime. Like 100% impressed with how well that thing turns. And then for off-trail stuff, you got to be more active with it.
Yeah.
That's all. It's not like it can't do it, but it certainly likes to have a pilot that's putting in the directives.
Totally.
All right, this side of the wall here, Matt.
Yeah.
You got another Kastle?
Another Kastle. Bob, I had an absolute blast on this thing this year.
Looks like it fit you great.
Yeah, like it was one of my standouts of the year for sure. Very much fits my style. But very similar conversation to what we started with ZX, but you add some metal to the mix. And as well, we get impossibly thin stringers of Poplar, Beach, and Polonia.
Yeah,
so we get a
Infinicore.
Yeah. So what that does is it just kind of allows Kastle to fine tune the flex of the ski throughout different portions of it. We see something very similar to Anomaly over there with their True Blend. This just kind of takes it to a little bit of a different place with how thin the stringers are. Mostly Beach in the middle and then Poplar on the outsides, just allowing the flex to be a little bit more tailored and a little bit more fine-tuned. Also, Holotech yet again, as with pretty much every Kastle ski, just to bring down that swing weight a little bit. But this, I think, is one of the better one ski quiver for people that like a wider format for here at Stowe.
Yeah.
That was kind of my takeaway. If you like something a little bit wider under your feet and you just want one ski that can do it all, this is definitely one that I think should be an option. Wicked carver.
Yeah.
Wicked carver. This thing can generate crazy edge angles, super stable at high speeds. It blows through crud and chop, a combined crud and chop there. You like that one? But super powerful, really, really, really responsive. If you can engage the tip, this thing hooks up immediately. And then you are rewarded with a really nice flex in the tail. But overall, nice even flex pattern. The tip is a little bit softer, but that just makes it have a little bit more of a forgiving character when you're in some more technical terrain or some more moguled out, bumped up stuff as well. We do have a binding plate on there, so that's about 200 grams. So right now we're sitting at about 2,100, which is a great weight to be. You get, it's not too much, but it's not too little.
Yeah.
You have some confidence underneath you. Going into shape, exactly the same thing as our ZX over here. So good amount of tip rocker, starts a little bit long and low, and then a good amount of splay. Nothing crazy, nothing like what we see in Kaizen or Wailer back there. And then good amount of camber underfoot as well, bolstering that energy and power, and then finishing it out with, wow, that really changes when you decamber it.
Yeah.
Didn't notice that before. Like, I mean, fully cambered, it starts there, then moves all the way down there.
Yep.
So that is really, really interesting as well.
Yeah,
But we had a blast on this thing, didn't we?
And we had a similar conversation with the 90 millimeter skis, the Kastle MX88.
Yeah.
How that shovel is a little bit more flexible too.
Yeah.
So I think that for this year they've made kind of a conscious move towards increasing the ease of initiation with the skis. And you know, I've spent more time on the 93 and the 107 than this 101.
Yep.
And on kind of either end, it's really impressive when the ski when you get into it here, that's when you start to feel that power and that energy really come alive, and extraordinarily strong out of the tail. I think I was watching the 93 ski footage, and there were a few turns where I was doing it where you could tell that like I was shot like into the other turn.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting it or ready for it. And I can only imagine that continues into 101.
Yeah.
And usually when you get in like the wider version of a ski, that only amplifies it because there's more material there to add to the energy.
100%. Yeah, it felt like each turn you were doing a hop turn into the next.
Yeah.
It just did it for you. It was insane. Super, but it was also predictable. Like after the first couple, like I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then I just let it do it, and it just felt really, really good. It was like hitting one of those things in Mario Kart where like you just kind of like the fast,
the boost arrows.
Yeah, literally felt like that. It's just a crazy, really cool ski, and it's very, very different from the ZX.
Yeah.
Just so different, and it's just cool because they share identical shapes. So
yeah, I still think if I had to choose for here, I would take the ZX. I think maybe if I were in more open spaces, I might look to that. And then, yeah, I just think it's kind of a choice of if you're more aggressive and if you prefer more dampness and power, then Paragon is clearly a better option.
totally.
But if you're kind of more an agile skier and you prefer shorter turns that are easier to make, then ZX is still is a great place to be.
Yep.
But yeah, cool skis from Kastle. All of these Paragons. The 107, that one blew my mind.
Yeah,
Like,
that one's
I really
crazy.
love that ski. And then 93 seemed like a more appropriate option for here. And this one, again, preference-based. If you want that wider ski, like you were saying, Matt, for that smoothness and power, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like having the Kastle and the Stockli next to each other, as these are kind of two, I don't want to say warring brands, but two that often get put against each other in terms of when we come to like quality and price discussions. You know, these are all kind of in that premium over $1,000 range skis, and when you get to that level, like you should be expecting
For sure.
something different, something unique. You know, we talked about it with DPS, where you don't, there aren't skis in 189 with a 15-meter turn radius with 2 sheets of carbon.
Nope.
Like there's a skier for that, and unfortunately, the more rare the commodity, the higher the price.
100%.
So that's where it comes along with DPS. With Stockli and Kastle, it comes down to more of quality of build and engineering and the process that goes into the skis. These couldn't feel more different in my experience, which I think is really interesting. So this is a Stormrider 102. This is a carryover model from last year. This is the 191, the proper length in this ski, which is just funny that I'm talking about skiing, that we're talking about skiing a 177 in a Core 99 and then a 191 in a Stormrider 102. But when you feel what they're meant to do, what they're designed for, this thing starts making a whole lot of sense in a longer length because it's just a Cadillac. Like it's a limousine Cadillac that just goes.
Yeah.
And it is as smooth and powerful and stable as they get, yet they are still flexible and amenable to making different style turns. I would say they prefer the longer turn for sure. 22.8?
Yeah, 22.3.
22.3, so nice long turn shape. We'll see another long one in Stance here. But yeah, very smooth and stable at speed. 2,100 grams. So like for a 191 with 2 sheets of metal, like that's kind of on the lighter side.
Yeah, totally.
You know, they are built with a blend of poplar and lighter weight paulownia in the wood core, and then 2 sheets of metal. Each layer has the rubber dust.
I love rubber dust.
You know, like I always like say what you will about these different technologies that go into it. There's something about them that works, whether it's like the energy management circuit in the head super shaped skis or the rubber dust in Stockli. Like there's something about it that it feels different. And so, or the carbon tubes in the Elan.
Yeah.
Like there's something about it that feels different, and it's just easy to point to that and be like, oh, well, that's how they built it. And that's what they meant it to be. So yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it wouldn't be in there if it didn't do anything.
Right.
Like why put that why do that? So,
Yeah.
Yep, definitely something to it for sure.
They figured it out. We get a kick out of Stockli as a company in general, as this is their widest ski that they make. This is like, you know, Stockli's version of a freeride ski with not a whole lot of camber, more taper than we see in anything else. Stormrider 95 kind of made a move towards this tip shape, although it's not as flexible. And then like a very race-inspired tail here, Matt. Like this is as square as you're gonna see.
It looks like a frontside ski.
Yeah, looks like a frontside ski in the back. And it's just hilarious to me that this is their freeride powder ski, and you know, you're gonna have a great time on it. I don't think that we really have the proper real estate here at Stowe. There's a handful of days where this would be a very useful ski, including like our ski test days.
Would have been ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it needs room to run. It wants to be used by someone that can power a ski, but doesn't want to be overpowered. Like
Right.
I think that's, once you get a little bit further down here, like you can be overpowered. I don't think this ski quite qualifies yet as being overpowering.
No.
Like it's appropriately powering,
Right.
which is part of the charm. Top sheet is metal, so that's your direct connection, and that leads to a smoother feel overall. Like the dampness of this metal, just it filters everything out before it gets to your boot. So like any vibrations have to go through the rubber dust, through 2 sheets of metal, through your binding, into your boot before you feel anything. So these do everything that these other skis do. They just do it quieter and smoother, and that's what you're paying for.
They have a little bit bigger of a sweet spot,
Yeah.
I think, compared to those other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's pretty impressive, you know, whether or not like you're able to justify the cost for one of these premium skis. I mean, that's not our decision to make.
Nope.
You know, that's between you and your financial planner. But I think that I've always said that if you want something bad enough, you can make some concessions, and whether it's morning coffee or your millennials avocado toast or stuff like that, it's keeping you from buying houses. But yeah, I think that you can, if you want something that's smoother and quieter than anything else, and it's a matter of a couple of $100 extra, you can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, super impressed with these every time we get on them. And yeah, you don't feel anything,
No.
which it's amazing that you can say the same thing about this as a Ripstick 102, and they operate on totally different planes.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're excited about this one. I am too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of smoothness, for a little bit cheaper.
Not much though, man. I was looking at the prices on these. What are they, like $850 retail or something like that?
Yeah.
They're getting up there in price, but I think that the quality and the things you're going to talk about now are, they put it there. It's justified.
Yeah. I know we don't really use superlatives, but this is my favorite declivity. I am actually the owner of one, but last year's the 102 Ti. This year, now we have the Declivity X 102, just with some slight alterations. This thing is such a well-rounded mix of awesomeness. It is so versatile, and I really, really like what they did with the changes that they made to it this year. This year, we're replacing the previous Karuba wood core with a poplar wood core, and then they changed the articulated titanal banding that we had in the 102 Ti and all of the declivities of years past. This time we have ATBX. So a little bit of a change. This is where we get the X added to the name, but they bring the metal down. Before it was full tip to tail, and then they had slits kind of running in the tip down here. And that just kind of made the tip a little bit more flexible. I always thought of it as like mountain bike suspension. Like if you're coming across the fall line, and there was any variation in the snowpack, it was able to kind of twist and move, but it kept you on track. Now they just bring it down lower into the ski because now we have poplar instead of Karuba. So it just kind of a balancing act between those two things. And then we also get a little bit more of a flatter rocker profile compared to the previous version. But first, we're at a really good weight here, just over 2,000 grams, 2,031. So right in the range of what you would expect for something like this, 102 underfoot, poplar, and then 2 metal laminates. I won't say full sheets, but a lot of camber here. This is one of my favorite things about this ski is that there's just so much stored energy in it, and it's a phenomenal carver, but when you decamber it, you get a ton of tip rocker and a really nice amount of tail rocker. So you do get that surfy, smeary feel, but then as soon as you put it up on edge, it just hooks up and rips. For me, I fall in that camp of liking something a little bit wider underfoot. And for me, this is my daily driver in Stowe.
Yeah.
Which I know could be controversial, but
too wide.
Yeah, it's too wide. Everything's too wide nowadays. But yeah, this thing is just an absolute blast, whether it be firm snow, pack powder, a couple inches, and then up to feet of powder. I've used them all. Used it in all of those conditions, and each time I was blown away. But really cool shape here too. So we do get a little bit of early taper, but it's nothing crazy. Like you still get a lot of flotation from it, but it also doesn't feel catchy when you're just kind of surfing through a lot of powder. And then in the tail, fairly squared off, but you do get a good amount of taper. I find this thing to kind of be the Goldilocks of a lot of different characteristics. It just is, it's in the middle a lot, which I really, really enjoy. But yeah, good amount of tail rocker to begin with, a good amount of splay, and then once you decamber it, it comes all the way down here. So just a really good blend of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I think so first of all, if anyone has like comments or questions about Declivity 102s, can you please indicate X 102?
Yeah.
I've run into that quite a bit, that it's hard to tell if someone's referring to this or the previous because they are so different. So that's my request. If you have questions, thank you. And then it was also interesting to see kind of a move more towards the free ride side of the spectrum, even though it's kind of moving towards the business-like all mountain side of the wall. They did make those changes to make it more amenable to softer snow. And like your Declivity 102 Ti, that ski I thought was one of the best 102s. Like that one I think would be further over.
Yeah, I was about to say it's probably in between.
Maybe here.
Yeah, like
between
Stance and
K2 and
Mindbender.
Stance. That was a very interesting carving ski because it paired that lighter energetic Karuba, which is used in the core, with that full metal.
Yeah.
And so you had lighter weight wood with metal and more, it seemed to have more of like that bump out in the tail that really finished a turn. And so everyone that I saw, like you, Another Matt that used to work for us had a Declivity 102 as well. And you and him and other people I've seen use these more in a front side capacity and carved like incredibly agile, energetic, and smooth turns.
Yeah.
This has most of that capability. I think it loses a bit of the pop to the next turn. I think that's a wood function where the poplar is a little smoother.
Yeah.
But like overall, I had a very similar experience to you. Like I got on these at Pico, and it was like it's a 10 out of 10 ski experience.
Yeah.
You know, it just does everything that you ask it to do. No issues, no complaints. They have that premium feel. Like I always recommend Armadas to skiers that are not looking to spend $1,400 or $1,600 on a pair of skis. Although this price is creeping up, it does have, it has that premium quality to it. They put a lot of thought and effort into these skis, and like Armada as a brand, I feel kind of fits into more of that freeride freestyle category, but their all mountain stuff like this is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And it hasn't been very popular, but I've definitely noticed it gaining a lot of traction. Like before, no one really knew about it. And then we started really kind of being like, hey guys, like these things are awesome. And then in most YouTube videos that we put out now, there's always some sort of comment on some declivity.
The 92, I think, gets the lion's share of the attraction.
Yeah.
I think that this new X102, and I don't know why they put the X in front of the 102, but
yeah, I don't know. I feel like after would be cool.
Yeah. Either way, I think that this new ski is going to kind of maybe shoot past that 92 in terms of appeal and attraction, but I still think the 92 is a more viable option for skiers that spend most of their time on trail. But again, preference has a lot to do with it. You seem to fit really well with this 102, and I do as well. They're just so smooth and fun.
And I kind of had this interesting experience because my girlfriend's dad has the same boot size and boot sole length as me, and he saw me out on my 102 TIs and he wanted to try them, so I let him try them. He took one run and he told me to get him a pair. And he's 62 years old. Yeah, 62 years old. He's not like me, 26 years old, like free ride through and through kind of guy. He's a very traditional skier. He likes to make kind of like, in a sense, of what you like to do, where you're making bump turns where there's no bumps.
Right.
And this is his daily driver now.
Yeah.
He used to be on a Laser SC. That was his daily, and now he's on one of these. It's a 102.
Yeah.
So like it really transcends a lot of different skiing styles and ages and conditions. It just transcends everything.
Yeah.
It does everything really, really well. Super well-rounded.
I like how it's got just that nice, even, stiff flex to it. Like there's so many good things to like about it.
Yeah.
Also, I like how it kind of fits in here between these two skis. I can't think of a more perfect kind of middle ground than the Stormrider and this Black Crow's Justis, which I'm taking full credit for turning you onto this ski this year. You know, this is a carryover in terms of construction. From years past, we do get a little bit different of a graphic. Admittedly, I kind of like the gold a little bit better, but that's just me.
I like the black.
Good for you. But yeah, once we got on this, it was pretty clear that the Justis had an interesting blend, and that's kind of what sets it apart. Is it is a very unique ski in a couple of different ways. One, it's got a good amount of metal and stiffness to it. So we do have a poplar wood core. We got this H-shaped metal laminate, so arms here, very similar to what we'll see with K2 in the front, and then the arms extend in the back as well. So metal laminate on top of that poplar wood core, and then we have that aluminum tail insert as well. So big chunk of metal here in the tail really helps with the finish phase of the turn. So it's built like a carving ski, but in a wider bodied format. 1,930 grams here in the 177, but where it really starts to set itself apart is in this profile. So there just aren't many skis out there with this level of build and that much tail rocker. So this is where, I mean, I like talking about rocker with anytime you start with the tail, like that means that there's something different going on. So long tail rocker, not like a ton of splay, but it is long and gradual. And with a ski like this, you would kind of expect it to kind of wash out maybe with that much rocker, and pretty good tip rocker as well. Like this is a progressive shape for such a sturdy build. So it's that combination of sturdy build and progressive shape that make this thing stand out. The result on the snow is nothing short of shocking, Matt.
Yeah, you could say that.
Stiff flex, but when you combine that with that rocker profile, it makes just incredibly energetic turns. This is stated at a 20-meter turn radius in this length. I think the longer ones get up to 21. I can't remember right now, but it sure feels shorter than that. We talk about some skis that kind of hit their radius, some that feel longer, some that feel shorter. This one feels shorter in that 20 is normally on the longer side of what we'll see here on this list, but it is probably one of the best turners out there. So somehow you're able to just access the entirety of the side cut, flex it, and then use that rocker to your advantage to make a shorter carved turn. And then because the build is so peppy, you just get incredible energy and rebound out of the tail end of the turn. It holds well on firm snow. Like we've had these out on some pretty awful days, and they are like fully confident on ice and on groomers.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how steep, doesn't matter how firm. Like this is a very strong and capable carver at 100 millimeters underfoot. And then there's soft snow. Like the rocker profile is progressive enough to work past that sturdy build and allow for proper flotation, great mobility in the trees.
Yep.
Not my favorite bump ski. But,
no, I can't imagine.
But I'll take it. You know, for everything else that it does well. You know, Jeff and I kind of had this love fest about that Nordica Unleashed 98 that we had in part one.
Oh yeah.
In terms of it being just a better turning ski than anything else in its category. And it's pretty easy for me to put Justis in here as well. Love to hear your thoughts on it based on our experience this year.
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. I think that I like how much you have control over what kind of turn shape you can make.
Yeah.
Just because of this spoon shape up here, like the lack of early taper and how much of the side cut comes up high, when you really get it on its edge, you access so much more of the side cut.
Yeah.
So the more you tilt it over, the tighter the turn radius and the more grip you get. But then the more flat you ski it, then the more maneuverable it gets. And typically you're on a lower edge angle when you're in a more technical situation, unless it's really steep.
Yeah.
And just like the amount of things that I did on this ski, I was just blown away by. And it was kind of funny because I was like going back and forth in my head because I own the one that we just talked about, that Declivity. And it's like, I could ski either one of these and nothing else.
Yeah.
Ever. Like they just do, like it could be an either or conversation.
Yeah.
But this one definitely takes it to another level with the carving. I mean, I did some pretty interesting kind of side country technical skiing. Like we went to Balls Falls on this, and it was kind of like one of those refrozen days where it was pretty chopped up, pretty disgusting, kind of firm, but also like some soft snow in places. This thing was a dream. Super predictable. Lots of float when I was in the soft snow, but then as soon as I hit some of that wind scorn type of stuff, it just, like on a dime, you could stop. So that was very, very useful. Yeah, this one and that Paragon were my two like blown away by skis of the year.
Most impressed.
Yeah, totally. And it was kind of funny, like we were out filming one morning and you had this, and I think it was you or Jeff was like, this ski was made for you and your style.
Yeah.
Like for me.
Yeah.
And I got on it and it was exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, we
So it's
had,
cool.
and I think we even had this and the new Atomic Maverick 105 out that day, and we kind of passed those two skis back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think based on those conditions, like both of us were certainly asking for this one back.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
100%.
Just in the fact, in just how well it finishes that carved turn and how complete of a ski it is.
Yeah.
Just very impressive. And like that said, though, I think I would have a hard time personally owning this and skiing it every day because it is like pretty stiff and you do have to be
I mean,
engaged.
that's a thick core profile.
It's a thick core, it's full metal underfoot. It takes a lot of work, and I'm just like getting to be on the lazier side of the spectrum now. So
Right.
I appreciate this, and I'll kind of make the same statements about the Mantra 102 specifically, is like, I love it, but I'm not sure I'd ever want to own it.
Yeah.
But for skiers that are looking for something that's like 100% engaging and incredibly versatile at the highest performance level, like I'm never going to talk someone out of the Justis.
Yeah.
If someone submits a comment and a question and the Justis is anywhere near their list, like that's the one that I'm like,
That
yes,
one. Yeah.
yeah, here's the link, buy now.
Yeah.
Also, we had a funny story from our warehouse sale where we had a 2 year ago version of this, I think. And I think you saw the guy walking out with it and you stopped him and said, that's the best deal in this warehouse right now. And then he walked through past where I was working at the boot shop, and I went out of my way to go approach him and be like, you just got the best deal in this warehouse right now. And he's like, you're the second person that said that to me in the
Nice.
last 5 minutes. So yeah, obviously high thoughts about this Justis here.
Yeah.
And hard to follow the Justis, but
Yeah.
you know, on this wall, you know, and you can obviously do your thing, but this K2 does pretty much everything that these other skis do, just in a more affordable way.
100%. Yep. So 2025 K2 Mindbender 99 Ti. This year, I think it's a carryover just in terms
New
of
graphic,
construction.
yeah.
Just new graphic. But we do get an aspen wood core and then Ti Y beam underfoot. So very similar to Justis over on that side, where we do get these kind of tuning fork style Ti tips, full length underfoot, full width. Oh geez, full width underfoot. And then they kind of switched it to, in recent years, a more central spine in the tail, and then it goes out a little bit in the very, very end. I think that is more so a play on some dampening properties in the back there.
It works. Like
Yeah.
when they changed that Y beam, I think it was last year was the first year, I can't remember, but when they changed it, it was noticeable.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is now going to be the third year of that new Y beam, but that bump out, that more octagonal shape in the tail, like you could feel that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a full gyroscope style.
It was pretty crazy.
Totally. But really shocked at how powerful these are. They're really, really stable, especially at our weight. I feel like we found a lot of success with this ski in terms of a carving format, but then also in an off-trail or soft snow format as well. Very similar conversations to pretty much the last two other skis that we've been having here with Declivity X and the Justis, but just a little bit different of a philosophy. So here we have a little bit more of a traditional style shape instead of something like the Justis with a really high side cut. This one is brought down a little bit more, introduction of some more early taper, and then a lot of tip rocker, pretty much down to there.
Yeah,
Like that.
K2's pretty aggressive with their tip rocker. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Super easy to initiate a turn, but then also have some forgiveness in softer snow and a little bit more you're driving the ski type of a philosophy. Some of those other ones, they kind of pull you in. Something like Paragon, I felt like it kind of pulled you in more, even though it had like a similar amount of tip rocker, but this one a little bit more loose. Lots of splay, make sure you're staying up on top, keeping those tips up. And then similar to Justis, a lot of tail rocker, a lot of tail rocker. And that just kind of helps with making them very pivoty and swivelly, especially in off-piste terrain and even on-piste when you're going a little bit slower and more technical terrain. Good deal of camber underfoot as well, bolstering that energy. And that really complements the Aspen really well too. Just a lot of stability, but also power and just composure.
Yeah, they are unflappable.
Yeah.
I don't know if we gotta wait. I can't remember, but yeah, it's one of those skis that for me, like for my money, this is one of the smoothest operators on groomed trails.
Yeah.
And like maybe days old groomed trails. So like older snow, like throughout the day, groomers get chopped up, softer snow, spring snow, but like more on trail. Like I've never had like fun off trail on this ski.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that fun, maybe some stance off trail fun, but the off trail fun kind of starts to end with this Mindbender 99 Ti in my experience. But that only means that the converse is true, is that the on-trail performance is just that much better.
Yeah.
So the smoothness and power that you're talking about, like it's all there. And when you put this thing on edge, it is 100% confident in its grip and in its performance from tip to tail. It's really fun. 19.6 in the 184, so that's a length longer than this. So slightly longer, similar to what we see in Justis. And you can access that whole tip to tail smoothness pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm weighing in on the scale at 2050.
Thank you.
So pretty middle of the road, very much on par with everything else in this category and similar styles of build. So was it the day that our K2 Media Day when we did lift line bomb?
Yep.
So you could do it the fastest. Were you on this one?
No, I was on the 106C, thank God.
Okay, because I think I was on this or the 108.
Yeah.
And obviously they share a similar build and a similar shape. And these things were just tanks.
They're tanks.
Yeah, it's crazy. You just point them. And I remember it being like pretty bumped up and like kind of that heavy slush. And I felt perfectly confident on these things. And I was just really, really blown away by that. And that's that on-trail performance that you were talking about, that they just want to go.
Yep.
So super, super fun ski.
Yeah, no, I mean like these, I think this is a nice sweet spot for Mindbender TI. The 108 is pretty rugged.
Yeah.
Like you have to be on that thing. And then the 89 is like a short turn specialist. So this one is kind of the sweet spot for this range in terms of it being smooth and powerful and totally confidence inspiring. Not as playful as this Justis.
Yeah.
So I think you might be able to make an argument that Justis can outperform the K2 in a carved turn, but the K2 cannot be as playful as the Justis. So this was kind of an interesting place to be for those skis, I think. Now we got a Salomon Stance 102. Thankfully, this is a carryover from last year. I think this is one of the best looking skis on the market, top and bottom. And this thing does return unchanged structurally, graphically, and has an interesting set of properties that make it stand out and make it be pretty unique. This did get the move to the blend of poplar and Karuba wood core, as all Stance skis did 2 years ago. This is the third year of blend of poplar and Karuba. So a little bit lighter. We get 2 sheets of metal. They're twin frame metal technology. So these windows in the forebody and through the aft of the ski are replaced with a carbon and flax material. And that just increases kind of the overall energy of the ski. You get a lot more snap, as you could hear in that initial flex, with the power of the metal. So same build as the other Stance skis, but we see a much bigger difference in the shape and profile than the other Stance skis, and kind of, I would say Anomaly is more similar to this in terms of shape. So if you kind of like this flatter overall profile and slightly longer turn shape, but want more power and endless stability, then Anomaly is your tool. But if any amount of mobility and kind of playfulness is on your radar, then Stance is a place to be.
Yeah.
What do you got? 2,054 grams here in the 183, and you know, this is where things start to kind of come together. Is a very flat overall profile. Not a lot of splay in the tip here, but long rocker. So that nice long rocker here keeps that tip up, and then very directional tail, but long rocker, long and super low.
Very long.
See that there, Matt?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so not a lot of splay. So the splay to length ratio is vastly different on this stance than it is on many other skis. 23 meter turn radius. So this is just a little bit longer than this in the 191. So this actually goes up to a 190, which I prefer. So I feel like longer skis with longer turn shapes that's what I like. And then, you know, it just makes sense when you're using them in their intended environment, which is bigger spaces.
Yeah.
So like we talked about with this, not really the real estate here in Vermont for a Stance 102. Got to ski them in Alta 3 years ago now, and they were wonderful there.
I can imagine.
So, you know, when we went out this year and had all the fresh snow, you know, that QST X was clearly the ski to be on, and the Blank was a close second.
Yep.
The time we went before, when it was, you know, it hadn't snowed for a week or so and was pretty dry. This was amazing because you could let it run in the more open areas, kind of, you know, that smoothed out naturally type of snow was right in this ski's wheelhouse. And then like in the trees, it's surprisingly mobile. You know, it doesn't have a playful tail, but because there's not a whole lot of camber underfoot and longer rocker, you can really make it kind of swivel and pivot very easily. So I thought that was really useful in those areas. And then, you know, chalk, crud, anything that's not like super soft, the metal made this thing feel totally composed. And then anything softer, you could just blow right through.
Yeah.
So it's like the Anomaly 102 in terms of its shape and style, but it's just more mobile and a little bit more agile. So I think this is just a great option for skiers that are looking, that have more room to run.
Yeah.
You know, that longer turn shape. This is one of those ones too that I think skis a little shorter than that too. You can get it up on edge and have it come around.
For sure. Yeah, I remember being on the 190 this year here at Stowe and being like, oh boy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit much. But the 183 is awesome for me around here. Like I remember going up to above the, like into the backcountry zones with you last year on this 183 on the 102, and we were doing just through the rock garden, pretty technical skiing, and it was perfect. It was a blast. And then it was still great once we got on trail. But out west, I think the 190 is definitely where it's at. But really good blend of characteristics in this one. It's very similar to that Declivity in a lot of ways, but also very, very different. But yeah, love all the Stance skis. They're all so good.
Yeah, on that 190 with the longer turn radius, it's one of those skis that if you start going and then if you tip it on edge, it keeps going straight and you fall over.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those skis where it's like a surprisingly long turn radius that you actually have to remember that it exists, and you have to behave accordingly. And didn't feel quite the same thing about this new ski.
No.
This does a lot of the work.
Yep, so this was a pretty big story this year. So this is the 2025 Enforcer 99. We do get Nordica's Performance Wood Core, which is made up of poplar and beech.
Yeah.
Poplar and beech. And then we also get pulse core underfoot, just to help with some vibration damping. And then the big thing as well, they did change the metal a little bit, where they brought in the metal laminate instead of full width. It's brought in about 2 millimeters on each side. So that just gives it a little bit more of a forgiving feel, as well as just a little bit more of a lively nature. Also, big story as well, we get more tail rocker, which is a big, big story here. 2,100 grams, so not the lightest ski, but also not the heaviest. As we're getting down close to that wall, we're gonna get up in number, just because that's what they are designed to do.
That's what they do. Yep.
That's what they do. But Good amount of tip rocker here, so really good for soft snow as well as firm snow. It's kind of in the middle. It's nothing crazy, but it's also pretty dramatic. Lots of camber underfoot, and you can certainly feel that on snow. That is a direct translating factor for edge grip and power, no matter what and where you are. And then in the tail, decent tail rocker, definitely compared to the previous version as well, and especially when decambered, like that's pretty solid, and certainly translates on trail. And then the other minor difference, but also big change, is that the mount point was brought forward 1 centimeter. So that just kind of accommodates for the more tail rocker that we have now in the tail, but then also just makes it a little bit faster to hook up, faster to kind of get engaged.
Yeah.
But yeah, we spent a lot of time on this one this year.
Yep.
A lot of time.
Yeah, we had a good early season day with them, and then we had a nice long morning, me, you, and Jeff doing an on-snow review, and then whenever possible throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a high-use ski for us this year for sure.
Totally. And of the ironclad skis that we are now in with these last 3, this one is definitely the more maneuverable of the bunch. A little bit, in my opinion, more versatile overall. Just a little bit easier to maneuver and handle when in situations where you're not in a carving format. Really good in soft snow, but still, like, it's a stiff ski, so it's kind of hard to release that tail a little bit, but still far easier now for sure. But pretty traditional shaping in the tip here, not a ton of early taper, but just enough. And then in the tail, similar to the previous version, but just a little bit more taper, I think, compared to the old 100. But
yeah, pretty interesting story with all enforcers, and the 99 is obviously and with the corresponding 100 has always been kind of the centerpiece of their story, and that's continuing for 2025 as well. Like you said, most notably, this is the biggest change out of any. Well, I don't know. We could talk about the 104 being less twin tippy than this is more freeride-y. We could certainly have that discussion, but this move towards more tail rocker does help in terms of the byproduct, like you were saying, of the more forward mount point. That's what I felt the most. It wasn't that the ski just had more tail rocker and therefore was more playful. It's that it shifted the ski forward more. So the height of camber shifted forward and that mount point shifted forward to meet that height of camber.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're at like very precise initiation. Like this thing takes off into a turn. We had, I think the first day we were out on them was very firm.
very firm.
And it was fortunately consistently firm.
Yeah.
And so all of us that were out there, we could actually we could get into it. It was firm and packed, like racers would really enjoy that surface.
Yeah.
And the 99 was right at home.
Yeah.
They all were.
Yeah.
But always amazing at how well 99 can function in that environment. And it was that day that really kind of made me question whether the 94 was the optimal East Coast Vermont ski, or given how well this thing held on that day, do you really need something narrower?
Right.
Like, you get the benefits of the carving plus the more free ride mentality.
Totally.
So that's been kind of knocking around in my head ever since that day.
Keeping you up at night.
Keeping me up at night.
Yeah. I had a very difficult time finding any sort of limit with this ski, whether it be edge grip, speed. There's not many limitations there. It's crazy. It's just an absolute all-mountain weapon.
Yeah.
And I think that all of the changes that were made were all refinements, and there was no sacrificing in any other area, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, there were all advantages and no disadvantages from the changes.
No, it feels woodier, it feels like more sturdy, yet also turnier and more versatile.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of pluses going on with this new Enforcer 99 for sure. And still very stiff, very engaging. All the Enforcers, we've said that about, that thick wood core profile with 2 sheets of metal. It's a sturdy ski.
Yeah.
Lengthwise, this is a 179, and like we kind of did a fun length comparison with the Enforcer 94 last year, so last year's version. And they operate really well in shorter lengths. So not like the longer turns of the Stockli or the Stance. Like these just prefer to make shorter turns. And I think that going shorter really accentuates that fact. And you don't lose stability or power because the build is so sturdy.
Yep.
So I think I would take a 179 for myself, although I don't think that the 185 is too long.
I would agree. I'd be happy on either.
Yeah.
I think out west,
Yeah.
185 for sure. Here I'm like 50-50 split. That's
Yeah.
what keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
The 185.
What length do I get?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what length? Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a similar conversation to that Mantra and Anomaly for me of like, I appreciate it so much and
Yeah.
I love every second I'm on it, but I don't know if I would own one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work. And we talked about that with the 89, that you really have to like that feel of a ski
Yeah.
to be on it all the time.
You have to be
Some
very
people do.
committed.
Yep.
Yeah. But for those who are committed, they will be endlessly rewarded.
Yeah. Yeah, I like talking about this Mantra 102 as well. It really is a special ski in that there's nothing that's wider that carves better. I think I'm saying that right, that this is like probably the best, widest carving ski that
Yeah.
there is out there, and trying to avoid those superlatives. But man, it's hard to deny this Mantra 102's capability in a carved turn on anything other than deep powder.
Yeah.
So your groomers, your crud, your chop, similar to the discussion we had with K2, anything on trail or relatively smooth, and like Mantra 102 just kills it.
Yeah.
This is the 184, 2,250 grams. So there's some heft there. It is built with Volkl's multi-layer wood core, so poplar and beech in this ski as well. We get their tailored Titanal frame, tailored carbon tips, and that frame is really 3 pieces on the upper laminate, full layer down below, but up top we have 2 arms that connect at the tip and tail, and then 1 sheet in the middle. And what's interesting is that they overlap, but they don't connect. So you can get the flex of the mid portion in between, and then you get the stability and power of the metal throughout. Pretty stiff. I mean, you can flex it, but it does take some work. It's a pretty thick and robust core. When you look at kind of the core profile, there's a very consistent thickness throughout. And that translates directly to that on snow feel, which is very unique. Volkl does interesting things with their profiling as well. Very flat, similar to that Stance, where there's just not a lot of rocker or camber underfoot, and longer and lower rocker in the tips and tails. Kind of similar to what we talked about with the core. These skis, Mantra 102, M7 Mantra, and now Mantra 88, the old Kendo, they share this same profile. So the rocker profile that you're getting in Mantra 88 is the same one you're getting in the 102. So when you add the width to the mix, you're still getting that on-trail performance that the 88 and the 96 provide, just in a wider bodied format. I skied this thing. We had a Volkl Media Day. Skied this in this length this year. I had it in the 177 last year and was like way more enamored with that than I was with this.
Yeah.
That said, this ski feels like nothing else out there in this 184. It is just pure and total confidence in a carved turn. Speed, not an issue, like a non-issue.
Yeah.
Like you can just romp over everything and anything in your way. This ski does not care, does not flinch, does not move, just stays on whatever course you want.
It kind of reminds me of those snowplow trains.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy.
Like those things don't even move when they're going through that snow.
Right.
Like there's no, as you're saying, no flinching, and very similar
Yeah.
with that. They just point it and it'll go. Like it's truly something special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, have a memory skiing Perimeral, which is like a lovely intermediate cruiser, nice, long, wide, really nice Mantra 102 terrain for sure. And I remember getting about 15 turns into it and being like, okay, I think I'm done. Like a top to bottom run on a Mantra 102 here at Stowe, where we have a nice 2,000 vertical foot fall line. It's a big ask.
It is.
So you do have to keep that in mind. I think that's why I was a little bit more pleased with the 177.
Yep.
So it just took a little bit off the top. Like there's not too many skiers who need the top of this ski.
No.
I have some friends though that will hike this thing up to the chin, off the back, all the way down Hellbrook and ski this thing in tight trees, and they're cool with it, but they're kind of weird.
That's the one and done.
Yeah. So that's, you do have to be, have the required leg strength and ski skills, I think, to really achieve and maximize the top end of this.
Yeah. I think it could be dangerous if you don't
Yeah.
have those skill sets, because it'll run and it's kind of hard to make it stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of need it to flatten out for a second.
You need like the
relax.
parachute, off the
Yeah.
back to slow you down. I mean, it is an extraordinarily fast ski, but it does turn really well. It does have Volkl's 3D radius.
Totally.
Like that is why this camber is so flat, is because it allows you to access 3 different turn shapes throughout, and with the shorter one being in the middle. And so if you want to, you can put that thing up on a high edge angle and it comes right around.
Oh yeah.
Really impressive. And that's what you're getting with like that. We talk about Volkl sophistication and precision all the time. And like, I don't think it's shown in a much better ski than the Mantra 102.
Yeah.
You could say it about the M7 for sure, as that's kind of their benchmark ski. But the fact that kind of the old Mantra technology works so well in a 102 just speaks volumes to this ski and its capabilities.
Totally. And I mean, with us both liking the 177, a lot of those things that we would be hesitant about are solved. Like in that ski in a 177, I would probably be that nutcase that would go do what you were just saying, like going up and doing some backcountry type stuff.
Yeah.
But I would prefer not to in the
Yeah.
184.
No, I mean, it's not, once we get to this side, like flotation isn't as much of a discussion in softer snow. Like it's just too stiff and too heavy, and it'll try to find the bottom.
Yeah.
Like that's what this thing wants to do, is it wants to engage in more of a carved turn. So
Right.
the ski has a preference for sure. So just have to be aware of that.
Yeah. It stands in rare air.
Yeah. And that's why it's right at the end here with this anomaly, which, we've been excited about a lot of these anomalies so far, and this is an interesting one.
Absolute beast of a ski. New for 2025, we have the Blizzard Anomaly 102. We do get Blizzard's True Blend free wood core, so very similar discussion to Paragon here, with stringers of poplar, beech, and paulownia, and then using those in a strategic way to fine-tune the flex of the ski and just kind of make it a little bit more supple towards like the extremities as well as along the sides of the ski, while the central portion is really bolstered and has a lot of energy, stability, and composure. And then we do get 2 full sheets of metal, but there's only 1 full one underneath, kind of right up against the base of the ski. And then on top, there's a couple things going on in there, but I think the really cool thing that they do is they take the top sheet and they split it into 3 sections, so 2 along the edges and then a central strip, and then they take a fiberglass laminate and kind of weave it into those 3 pieces. So they kind of, you can think about, these 2 fingers are the middle portion and then these are the outside. They kind of take the fiberglass and kind of just incorporate it into the metal layer itself. So they're kind of building energy into the damping layer,
Right.
which is pretty cool. And then we do get flux form underfoot, just to help with some vibration dampening and shock absorption. But this thing is an absolute missile.
Yeah.
Like, I know that this is a wider ski, but to me, my first thought goes to like the old Black Crowes Corvus.
Yeah.
Where it's just an absolute fall line missile, but this is in a little bit more of a narrow format. But this thing, I mean, I was just blown away by it the first time that we got on it. Before I move on, quickly for weight, we're looking at 2150. So up there, but not as much as the Mantra.
Yeah, this is just a slightly longer, but this is a heavier ski.
Right. But yeah, this one definitely feels a little bit more locked into a turn. This one, the Mantra, you can kind of make a few more turn shapes. This one's kind of locked into a longer, fast, hard charging turn shape. But it's super unique and kind of replaces that Cochise of years past, but just a little bit narrower. I can't imagine this thing in a 106. So I'm very happy that it's a 102.
Yeah. No, I think they were conscious of that perhaps, and that, there's certainly that Cochise fan that is sad to see it go and maybe doesn't want to compromise with a 102. Like,
too bad.
That's a very small portion of skiers.
Right.
But most people who are bona fide or Cochise adjacent will likely get along really well with this.
Yeah. But can't remember what other ski that we were talking about where the amount of just energy coming out of the tail. That's what I felt with this. Like, it literally felt like you were on like a pogo stick. And like at the end of the turn, like it just shot you out.
Yeah.
And that's due to its really nice even flex pattern, but then a ton of energy in the tail. And you can certainly feel that. You can see it in the videos of it. It's really, really insane how stable, composed, and strong that this ski is. But going to shape, classic Blizzard fashion, we get a lot of like late splay just to keep you on top of things. Although this thing more so likes to just barrel through, but still likes to keep you on top. But like a decent amount of tip rocker, like it's like, a good amount, but it's long and low, and then comes out pretty significantly. Lots of camber underfoot, adding to that energy and power. And then in the tail, get fairly long and low. Like that's way longer than I remember it. And it doesn't feel like there's that much.
No, you feel very, like you said, very locked in. And really that's what's kind of keeping it on the other side of the Mantra here, is that inability to make those various turn shapes and styles and really hook into a shorter arc. This one feels more adept at longer edge-to-edge turn shapes and styles.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely one of the cooler looking skis up here.
Yeah.
Although I'm biased, I love purple.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, and I think that it is. I would say it's more bona fide adjacent than Cochise adjacent. They're like with the 94. I would say because the Anomaly 88 is like directly replacing Brahma 88.
Right.
So then our next logical move wider is that the 94 replaces the Cochise. But this thing just has a little bit more in common. Bona fide. Yeah. This has more in common with the bona fide than the Cochise, I think, in terms of its capabilities. But it's also funny to talk about the 94 and the 102 because they both prefer that longer, more direct, more attacking style of skiing.
Yep.
Whereas the 88 and then the 84 are much more turning oriented.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting, and then it kind of is also interesting to compare that to Enforcer, where the 99 is the one where they made the big move in this Anomaly line. The 88, I feel like, is the kind of the more specific ski in the line.
Yep.
Whereas this and the 94 they share a bit more.
Totally.
But yeah, it really ends up on that side of the wall because of that shape and just that really strong tail and its preference to be in a longer turn shape and style. Even though it's like 19.5 meters, it's not 22 or 23 like some of these other skis.
Nope.
This is one of the ones that skis longer
Yeah.
than the stated radius.
Totally. And similar conversation to our Mantra discussion, I prefer the shorter length in this one for sure. Like I'm a 182 in this, no matter what.
Is it the 188 that's the longer one, I think?
Yeah,
I remember they brought that and they're like, here, we brought this for you and Matt. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to have much to do with that, but I'll do it. But no, I agree. And once I got on the 182 in this, it made more sense.
Totally. Yeah. But
Cool.
thing is an absolute rocket.
Yeah, and fitting, I think that Mantra and Anomaly certainly fit on this side. You know, I think last year we could have made an argument that Enforcer 100 could have been interchangeable, but I think that new Enforcer 99 definitely makes it slide a little bit this way.
Yeah.
But always fun to try to kind of put these together in some type of cohesive fashion and see what's what. But yeah, keep in mind that this is part 2 of 100 millimeter all mountain and free ride comparisons. So starting over there on this wall is again the more directional of the entire 38. I think it's 38 skis we did this year in this range. So, you know, let us know if something's missing. Me and Matt walked through the warehouse looking for 100 millimeter underfoot skis, and that's kind of how we got involved in this mess. Is we just kept pulling skis off the wall, and we're like, oh, we got to include this, got to include that. So if we're missing something overall from part 1 and part 2, let us know. Happy to kind of put our thoughts in on that, and any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Hopefully this was a fun way of doing it, but yeah, more out of necessity than preference. I like to see everything on one wall, but there's just too many good skis.
That'd be a big wall.
So
yeah.
Matt, thank you for joining us.
Great job having me.
Your first comparison here. See if you get a call back.
All right, I hope so.
But yeah, until then, reach out if you have any questions, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.